a junior officer, the name of Dennis Itumbi, threatening him with physical assault within the precincts of a state lodge on the basis that someone who had no defined role until recently, I think he would say his work is come here, go there. He's not tweeting the things you want him to tweet. Why would you, if you hold high office, be so petty and vindictive with leaders because they are not kneeling before you and hailing you as the king and the greatest of all? Why would you, for instance, be belittling your own member of parliament and telling the whole world how much dowry you paid at his wedding, how you spent your time and money? And mind you, I spent more money and more time in Kiambaa constituency to a young man like Njuguna Kawanjiko, the member of parliament for Kiambaa. Why would you insult the lady, gracious lady who represents the people of Baringo County and call her a prostitute? Because people have refused to sing to your tune or because they have associated with people you do not like. Florence Jamatia was insulted because he was working at the time being with the member for Kiharu. You've heard the member for Kiambaa narrate his ordeal. And I can tell you, members of parliament, especially those from the Mount Kenya region, have harrowing stories of what they have had to go through. I said the other day, many of them shudder in fear because of this desperation and attempts to intimidate them, because you are desperate to pull people together from a region so that you may use the levers of that region and the people, one, as a shield and a mask to mask your true character, and two, to blackmail government and the president.
Are you saying none of these character traits were evident previously?
Well,
30 months ago, when all of you were, as Ndu said, drinking in the same room?
You know, I say it as it is. And that's even now, I am saying it as it is. There are things we write in books.
So it's a matter...
If you remember the events of May 15, 2022, we had almost the night of long nights at the residence of the then Deputy President Karen. And when history is written and books are written...
This is the weekend where it later emerged who the Deputy President was picking as his running mates.
There are many of us who had reservations, but we all opted after very extensive consultations to settle on a team that would help us win the election. And we raised the reservations that many of us had, and hoped that those things would be ironed out over time. And having raised the issues we raised then, that even the person himself would reflect upon himself and be more amiable in people-to-people skills. Because like the character of being too abrasive with people and other leaders and being vindictive and, you know, that character that now has basically alienated many leaders and many people from you is something that you internalize, that this is what people have said about me, and act with grace now that you are holding high office. And be a little bit more gracious. And it did happen.
So you raised those issues.
Many of us actually bent backwards to accommodate each other. And for some time it happened until, and again I'll say this thing for the first time, until sometime towards the end of last year, when it was discovered that a lot of money had gone into waste, in one office on a vote that should not have been spent in the manner that was spent. And when the president did put a stop to it, then fights began. And I remember the fight then was coached around what would pull the people with them. And we were told it is now time to have the one man, one vote, 1 shilling. And you remember me asking, under that executive order number 1, you've heard about intergovernmental relations work, chairing IBEC, chairing cabinet subcommittees. There's something about the offices of independent constitutional commissions being vested under the office of the deputy president. And I didn't ask then, first in person, second in public, why are we now using this microphone to speak about 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling, yet we have all the levers to implement the things we are talking about. If you wanted a change in revenue sharing, even begin from the cabinet subcommittee, process it through that, take it to cabinet, let a new formula come to the Senate, agree under IBEC, as you chair IBEC, with the Council of Governors and all the other intergovernmental relations officers, agree on a proper formula that would actualize what you're talking about. But it was my position and still my position then that that was a gimmick to get the people to your side, look like the champion of the people's interests in terms of 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. And you're not telling them the truth, that you have all the levers of power to implement this. But it's something you want to hoodwink people so that you fight for actually what you are looking for, which are basically resources and unfettered control of resources without any questions, even those that you misappropriate. Remember the cases of Air Force helicopters. And for a moment, when that comes back, you forget about the people issues because you are comfortable. If a bit of resources come your way, you forget the people issues. I mean, if we are speaking about people issues, let us, for heaven's sake, be consistent. Okay. If we spoke about a guaranteed minimum return and actual value for coffee, tea farmers, for heaven's sake, let us actualize it now. Okay. Let's not become the new cartels in town.
As as much as all of this is playing out, we can't run away from perception. That perception is that it is skewed heavily toward the political. What's your thought about that? That this is taking up a solid load of space, a solid load of time that could actually be used towards working on things that should really, really matter to the people of Kenya.
I think, I'll tell you, it's true. It takes a lot of time and energy. And that is why, for instance, we as the people's representatives purposed not to get distracted. Focus on that which we ought to be focusing on and on delivery. Ensuring that, for instance, you remember, and we can only learn from history. This is the second deputy president under the current constitution. The president was the first deputy president under this new constitution. We saw when William Ruto was deputy president, we saw him on your TV station here on KTN, CitizenTV, NTV, almost all our national TV stations. Articulate government policy, defend and inform Kenyans on what government was doing. And he became like the official spokesperson of government under the Uhuru Kenyatta regime right from 2013. You remember, hardly would President Uhuru Kenyatta, probably he would do 1 or 2 interviews in a year on national TV. But the person who was on the ground on TV stations and media everywhere, every day, was the then deputy president, articulating government policy, informing Kenya what government is doing. We have a situation where now we have a deputy president who has never patronized a single national TV station to articulate government policy. He has never been anywhere to defend any government policy, articulate what government was doing, inform Kenyans. The only time my good friend has been on TV or radio is vernacular radio stations and vernacular TV, not articulating what you are doing as government, but whining and crying about this or that. That's personal. And when we realize that as elected leaders, we said, fine, we can choose to take this route. Then we end up doing what you are saying. We end up consuming a lot of our time on political issues, on whining of an individual, on my dissatisfaction with this or that. But what about the dissatisfaction of Kenyans, of the people who elected us? And that's why we say, let us focus on the disaffection of Kenyans, focus on those issues, and find alternative ways and means of resolving those issues. And for instance, that's what we did last week when we asked the cabinet secretary in charge of national coordination in the national government to help us in the coordination of our projects in our region, even as he does his work in coordinating national government projects across the nation, so that we have a focal point and a link between us and the executive to actualize the promises and the pledges we made to the Kenyan people. It is not a fact that we can run away from, that there are many stalled projects across the country, some that stalled way back as 2016, 2017. If we had that focal point, for instance, I would have expected that the deputy president being able to chair the cabinet subcommittee would be at the forefront of ensuring that all these stalled projects are actually, you're able to even pool resources to get them moving. And that has not happened. I would have wished that that would have been our focal point of rolling out development projects.
I'm confused sometimes, Kimani, because on one hand, I hear you many times saying, you know, when you talk about regional politics, that's parochial, that's tribal, that's just demagoguery. But on the other hand, you are among the leaders who are sitting in a meeting and appointing somebody to be like the spokesperson and the coordinator of the region.
Let me say this.
Parochial and tribal and regional is the same thing you're practicing.
Let me say this. We represent people. People who have issues. I represent the people of Kikuyu first and foremost before even I am the leader of majority in the National Assembly. I have a national duty as a leader of majority in the National Assembly. And I will not belittle my office now as majority leader to be a focal point of Kikuyu politics, for instance. But when I work as a member of parliament for Kikuyu, I pursue the interests of the people of Kikuyu as their member of parliament. And therefore, when leaders come together from a region to pursue the interests of their people, especially around development projects, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. How I wish.
But that's exactly what the deputy president has been talking about.
Latif. How I wish the deputy president has ever convened a single meeting of leaders from any corner of this republic, because as deputy president, you can convene leaders from Western Kenya, from the Mount Kenya region, even per county, to dwell on issues, development, and people-centric issues. On the other hand, we have been told on the microphone, it is either by December you are following me, or these members of parliament will go home. It is not, it is either by December you have come to sit with us to look at the people-centric issues of your stalled road projects, be it the Mau Mau roads or other areas like my constituency where we don't have Mau Mau roads. Whether we are coming together to look at the coffee, tea, and milk sector reforms.
Yeah.
How I wish that is what we are doing. And that is why we said, as our region's leaders, we have the people's interest at heart. Therefore, let us not be carried away by the clamor to have regional parties, regional kingpins, people who you mobilize around for politics' sake. But let us focus on the job. And that's what I even said yesterday. We are focused on the job. I'll tell you, for instance,
so making
when
Professor Kithure Kindiki your coordinator is not political or regional.
If you listened or if you read our statement, we said we want him to be the focal point and link between us and the executive on the coordination of projects, development issues, not for political work. If you listened,
it's euphemisms, Kimani. We are in this country.
If you saw what has happened in the recent past, I was telling you some of the roads that had stalled, that the president was able to get money for. And we said it in Nyandarua the other day, in Daragwa, that out of close to the 40 billion shillings that the president was able to get, about 3.537 billion was going to Nyandarua County to unlock 2 major roads in Daragwa, others in Kinangop and parts, I think, of Olkalau. Yesterday, we were with David Chirchir, the Minister for Transport, and Professor Kindiki in Kiambaa constituency to unlock the roads that were being done in Steko in Kiambaa constituency, parts of Kabete and parts of Limuru, a total of 90 kilometers of roads. If we are able to focus on the job that way, then we will deliver to our people.
Okay.
And once you deliver, then the issues of 2027 will be sorted based on the work that you do, not based on whether you are kneeling before a man or you are following a man, but on the basis of whether, as a member of parliament, you have been able to articulate the issues of your people, taken them to the executive implemented projects that change the lives of the people.
Let me ask the question and let me see if I'm getting it right. Because of, the kind of focus that the Deputy President has had, he has been unable to deliver on the core mandate that has been assigned to him. And that has left people in the dairy sector, the tea sector, the coffee sector, for example, complaining and feeling the promise of the Kenya Kwanza administration is not being delivered. Am I correct? Yes, no?
To an extent, you are correct and on point. And not just that, Latif. I said, even in the being able to articulate and push government agenda.
Okay.
That office should be the focal point, as we saw in the past.
Okay.
Be there, articulate what is it that government is doing. I hardly ever hear my good friend ever speak anything to do with the development of the people. And I stand vindicated a lot if you would play for me one clip where my good friend, the Deputy President, is articulating government policy anywhere. Get me a clip where he is speaking to the stalled projects anywhere in the country, or explaining what the new higher education funding model or the social health insurance fund is about, articulating issues to do with the growth of enterprise. And for instance, when I came here last time, and I think I was on KTN, and I tried in a way to explain to Kenyans some of the issues that are being raised in the finance bill, especially around the manufacturing sector. I mean, in this regime, unless the president is speaking, nobody else
comes. So where does this leave the president with all this? Where is the president when his deputy, as you say, appears not to be in touch with the people, appears not to be working to deliver on the promises of the people? Where is the president?
The president is left overworked, and because the buck stops at his desk, then every other finger is pointed at the president. But we all have a responsibility as leaders to offload some of these things from the president and help him to actualize on what we promised the people of Kenya.
What action is he taking to speak to his friend? Because he has told us many times, the president, that the deputy is his friend. He picked Rigathi Gachagua as his running mate because of very many qualities that he saw in the man.
I don't know.
Today, What's the president doing?
I don't know what I would tell you, because that question I think would be better answered by the president, the deputy president themselves, not me.
As a member of the team, as a senior member of the team, that, crafted the campaign, crafted the messaging, crafted this government, you say you have raised it with the deputy president, you have raised it with the president. What have you told the president to do?
We told him we want to focus on the job and for him to be able to help us on delivery, especially of the issues around development, the stalled projects that were there in our constituencies, various constituencies. We have a whole retinue of roads that members of parliament in the region have processed through the member for Mwea and the document shared with the ministry under the directives of the president. When, for instance, I told you we raised the issue of milk farmers not being able to get what the president has been saying, he intervened. And you've seen him intervene also, for instance, on that case in Madeira on coffee. And we've asked the president to just focus on the job, and not allow himself to get distracted. We have also purpose not to get distracted, and that is why you've heard many of us say the things we are saying, because if, for instance, and I say this, many members of parliament would get intimidated. Many would shudder and run in fear when you are told, people are being mobilized on social media and vernacular stations to bash you every day. But Latif, I went through this in 2018.
Many times.
To 2022.
We've got to come.
All vernacular stations were mobilized against us, and specifically me. It did not cow me. Bloggers on social media, I don't think there's anyone who has ever been bashed the way I've been bashed on social media.
We've got to end it here. It's 3 minutes after 10, so we've run over by about 4 minutes.